Hi, I'm Sohla here at the New York Times Cooking Studio, and we're gonna make Thanksgiving, a Thanksgiving fried chicken feast. I'll do it again. Today, we're gonna make a Thanksgiving fried chicken feast. Why fried chicken? Ham and I don't have the traditional Thanksgiving spread, like the turkey spread, because depending on where we're working, by the time it's Thanksgiving, we may have made Thanksgiving dinner like dozens of times. Fried chicken is one of our go-to holiday meals because it's not something we ever make at work, and it feels really special because you don't make fried chicken all the time, and it's not gonna be dry. You're not gonna miss any of the Thanksgiving vibes though. So even though we're having a different kind of meal, all those holiday flavors that you think a lot about, we're still gonna have sweet potatoes, but we're gonna do it a little different. For like your green bean moment, we're gonna have a little smashed green bean salad. It's gonna be very refreshing. It'll go really well with our fried chicken. We're still gonna have mashed potatoes and gravy, but I wanted to lighten it up. So it's gonna be like a sour cream and onion mashed potato with a mustard gravy. Growing up for Thanksgiving, we always had those Pillsbury rolls that pop out of the tin. So to give you that kind of roll moment, we are making some butterflake rolls. They're so buttery, so pillowy, and it's perfect for sopping up the gravy. Dessert, I'm taking the two pies that define Thanksgiving, pumpkin and pecan, and turning it into a Texas sheet cake. So you get the fried chicken and the Thanksgiving. That's the theme of this menu, a fried chicken Thanksgiving. There's a lot of connections. Okay, we thought about this for a long time. Ultimate goal, we're gonna have some friends over to enjoy this fried chicken feast. I'm gonna prep this over 2 days, so this is day one. A lot of the cooking's gonna happen today, and then tomorrow we fried chicken, heat everything back up, and then enjoy dinner. You will be able to pull this off, but you gotta plan. I recommend you print all your recipes out, and you wanna read through everything so you can figure out how to weave the steps together. So we're gonna prep everything today, except bake the sweet potatoes and fry the chicken. And then we can reheat everything tomorrow. Because the day that your guests are coming, you don't want to be frazzled. And then you can clean your kitchen, because your mother-in-law's coming, and she will judge you. The first thing we're gonna do is brine our chicken, and then next we're gonna make our rolls. The rolls have to be made over 2 days. This dough actually mixes for like 15 minutes, so while that happens, I will make the pickles. And then next we are going to make our cake all the way. See, this is how you layer. I wanna see if there's time while the cake is whisking to do something else. Yeah, it's gonna whip for 5 minutes. So during that time, I will make the Mornay for the potatoes. We got our gravy. Ooh, we're gonna make mashed potatoes today. So while the cake bakes, we'll make our mash. And that's it. That's not bad. This is not bad, you can do this. Okay, get suited up. Is it time? Do you wanna do like slow motion, like Wow, did we do it?
One side's
Below?
sticking up, one's, okay.
So we're gonna start by brining our chicken. I tested this with a wet and a dry brine and a buttermilk brine. And I tried one where I did a dry into a buttermilk brine. And at the end of the day, every single version was delicious. It kind of comes down to personal preference. I like the wet brine because it resulted in the juiciest chicken. So it's 3 tablespoons sugar, 3 tablespoons salt, and just a teaspoon and a half of MSG. MSG just makes something taste more of itself. So for our chicken, I'm sticking with legs. I prefer the bone-in, skin-on situation, but like, I have this one friend who doesn't eat bones, so I made tenders for him, and they ended up being everyone's favorite. So you could turn this into a tender party. Sometimes there is a lot of yellow fat, and it can be a little bit too much. But here, there isn't any. This is a nice thigh. I'm just gonna trim off some of this skin. If you have a little container in your freezer of chicken skin like going, you can like save this and render out the fat later. Okay, to split this.
Wait, sorry.
Is that a
Container of chicken skin?
Yeah, you should have
You
should have in your freezer like a little container where you just save these little bits, and then when you have enough, render it all out and you have schmaltz. Whoa. All right, to split this, you wanna go in between the joints. So I learned this from ham, and it works almost every time. Use the back of your knife to pull the skin, just so you can get a better look at the meat. And see this line of fat right here? If you cut through there, you can almost always get between the joints. Oh, I said almost, I was close, but look, it got me to the bone and I can take a peek and then you can see where that joint is. There it is. Huh? We're not going through bone, and we're gonna go right into our brine as we break down our chicken. This meal is for 6 to 8, and I think 1 leg should be good per person because we have so many other sides, but if you're just having fried chicken, this might only serve 4. Kind of depends on what else is going on the table. Personally, I really prefer the organic chicken, not just because it's organic, but because it's often smaller, so you get a better ratio of like meat to bone, because the more bone there is, the more flavorful it's gonna be. Okay, that's it, easy. Now, I'm gonna cover this up, let it hang out in the fridge. We're gonna make butterflake rolls. I love this shape. It's very retro. You roll the dough out and layer it and then cut it. And then you flip it on the cut side and bake it. And when it bakes, it like butterflakes open. So you're gonna have all these little pull apart layers that are layered with so much salted butter. And the layers pull apart like slices of white bread and you can make a little fried chicken sandwich. We're going to start off with Claire Saffit's all-purpose enriched bread. So we're gonna start by making the roux. This is called tang zong. I'm probably saying that wrong, but it's an amazing technique because it's a great way to increase the hydration of your dough. I can't say that. I can't say that. I'm gonna call it the roux. The great thing about using this roux in your dough is it helps the bread last longer. So if you wanna bake this the day before, it'll still be fluffy the next day. Bring this to a simmer, and you're gonna see at first it's gonna go a little lumpy because the starches don't hydrate fully evenly at once, but just keep whisking and it's gonna get really thick, really smooth, the texture of mashed potatoes. It's getting thicker. Don't stop just yet. Okay, see how it's beginning to come off the sides of the pot? See how gluey it is? That's good. If you take it off a little earlier, the dough's gonna be really wet and hard to work with. And now this has to cool. It's really important for it to fully cool before you mix the dough. You can let this cool at room temp, but I'm gonna cover it, pop it in the fridge, and then make pickles while I wait. Whoa, okay. All right, so these are just classic, quick dill pickles. If you don't have Kirby cucumbers, use whatever cucumber you have. These are great because they stay crisp. If you're not into cucumbers, you could do anything else with this, like cauliflower, turnips, beets, apple. Whoa. I always trim off a little bit of this because I read that there's some enzyme there that makes the pickles soft. So we're gonna quarter these. You can also do rounds, halves, wholes. Whoa, whatever you're feeling. Get crazy. If you do want to keep them whole, it's probably going to take a little bit longer to pickle. And I'm not going to cut them all. I'm going to start with the small guys and then see how many more I need to pack the jar. Wow, this pickle has a story to tell. Okay, let's pack these and see where we're at. You really want to go tight because you will be shocked by how much they kind of shrink from the pickling liquid. These are quick pickles because we're using vinegar, but non-quick pickles, like the lactic acid pickles, you just cover it in a saltwater brine and it develops that acidity as the bacteria eats the sugars in the solution. There's like room here. I think we are at capacity. For our brine, I'm gonna toast the spices a little bit, just a little toast. You can also make these spicy if you wanna just like tuck a serrano in there. So you know these are toasted when it starts to get a little aromatic and you hear some mustard seeds pop. Can you hear that pop? Okay, now we're going in. Water first. Just because if you put the vinegar in there, it's gonna go straight in your face. Vinegar, I'm using distilled white, but you can like change this up with apple cider or whatever. So this is just like the most basic, the most classic pickle. So we wanna just bring this up to a simmer and then we're gonna pour it into the jar. Okay, so we have bubblage. I'm gonna pour it into here just to help me pour because the mouth on that's a little narrow. I just wanna make sure the spices get in there. The longer it sits, the better. So I'm gonna let this hang out on the counter and then once it's cool, I'm gonna pop it in the fridge. So now we're gonna make gravy. This is a spicy mustard gravy because my favorite dipping sauce for McDonald's chicken nuggets is spicy mustard. So it's that in gravy form. So we're gonna start by making a roux, and we're actually gonna use oil instead of butter. A lot of times gravy use butter, but here I found the butter kind of mellowed out the mustard flavor. And I really want the mustard to shine. So we want something more neutral. Traditionally, for gravy, you want the highest quality broth possible, but not with this gravy. It's wild. I tried this with like really good gelatinous brodo, and it just mutes the flavor of the mustard. So get like regular low sodium box stock. Don't get too fancy with this. We're doing this over medium heat. We want these to get brown. So the first time I did this, it was an accident. I accidentally burnt them, and it actually added so much flavor. So now we're gonna intentionally burn it. I tried this with a few other mustards. I did like a combo, some grainy, some Dijon. I tried powder, but you want Coleman's mustard if you want that authentic McDonald's taste. Okay, we have some light browning on our shallots. Now let's add our flour. And I'm gonna switch to a whisk now, just to avoid lumps. And our shallots are gonna get really dark, and our flour is gonna get like blonde. We don't want the flour to be too toasty because it kind of overwhelms the flavor of the mustard. The idea is everything we're doing is to highlight the mustard. Okay, see our shallots, they're getting darker. See how toasty they are? It's starting to smell a little burnt. That's what we want. Now add your stock a little bit at a time at first. You just want to work out those lumps. If you add it too quickly, it's very hard to work out the lumps after. And we are going to strain this, but it's just better. Just avoid the lumps, you know? Oh, this is exactly like the tangzong. Wow, it's the gravy version. No matter what we're having for Thanksgiving, I try to make the gravy in advance, and then if you're doing like a traditional gravy, just add your drippings at the end. See how smooth that is? Look at that, no lumps. At this point, you can just add the rest of your broth and you will be lump-free. Color really adds to flavor. So in order to make this feel mustardy, I want it to be very yellow. So I'm adding a little bit of turmeric, but it's just for color. I don't want flavor. It's gonna be just a few minutes of simmering. We want it to thicken up a little. There's no mustard, but it already looks mustardy, right? And we're gonna add salt at this point. Salt, pepper. You need to make sure this is well seasoned, otherwise that mustardy heat won't come through. So you can see, coats the back of the spoon. I think that's good. I'm gonna add the mustard and then taste again for salt. I'm gonna take it off the heat at this point. And I'm not gonna go crazy with the seasoning because tomorrow when I reheat it, I'm gonna like adjust the seasoning again. So now I'm just gonna strain this and chill it. It would feel so annoying to get another container just for this little bit. And then I'm gonna let this cool at room temp, and then we'll put it in the fridge. Ooh, it's hot. Hold on. We can do this. I think the tangzong is ready now. We should bread. So this is nice and cool. Not quite like fridge cold, but like room temperature. We're going to add eggs, oil, sugar, salt, yeast, and the rest of the flour. Mix it until it's a coarsely textured dough. 3 minutes, low speed. So I'm gonna get started on the Mornay. This is for the sweet potatoes. Mornay is just cheese sauce. This is the base for mac and cheese. So we're gonna start by making another roux. That's the theme of Thanksgiving. That's the meaning of Thanksgiving. I think we figured it out. It's roux. It's interesting because now this is like a totally, we did a milk roux, we did an oil roux, and now we're doing a butter roux. Wow. We're seeing a little foaminess. Then we're gonna add our flour all at once. Now we don't want any color on this flour. It starts out looking very yellow and it kind of lightens up, it gets nice and foamy. And I'm gonna add my milk, and it's exactly the same as when we made our gravy, a splash at a time. Every time I've made like a roux thickened sauce, someone in the comments is like, but Jacques Pepin, he adds all the liquid at once. He's too skilled to know how to teach people well. Before you add every addition, make sure you mix it until it's nice and smooth. And I'm not even using a whisk, and it's fine. And at this point, it's safe to go for it. So you just gotta be careful with the first half, and then dump it all in. Now, same deal as the gravy. let it simmer for a few minutes to cook out that flouriness. So we're just gonna let this simmer a little bit, and then we'll finish it with the cheese and do our final seasoning tomorrow. Right now it's bechamel. When we add cheese, it's Mornay. But either way, it's delicious, huh? Oh, I forgot the garlic. I'll add it now. Okay, guys, whoops. This is just what happens when we multitask, but it'll be okay. But you were supposed to add the garlic to the roux, just briefly, right before adding the milk. Now, we set this aside. Okay, our bread needs a few more minutes. While it finishes up, I'm gonna quickly prep the green bean salad. And what's awesome about this is we don't have to blanch our beans. We're gonna smash. We're gonna smash them and salt them. And you need them to sit salted for like at least 4 hours, 6 hours, and that salting kind of tenderizes it and makes it more pleasant to eat. If you don't season this enough, they're gonna stay tough. They're not gonna break down. We're putting this on undressed lettuce, so if this is aggressively seasoned, that's fine. So toss it for a moment, but we're gonna pop this in the bag, pop it in the fridge, and we'll finish it up tomorrow. But now we're gonna make the dressing, but I feel like my dough might be ready for butter. And I forgot, I was supposed to scrape it a couple of times. That feels firm. It feels elastic. You can see it's like really stretchy now. I'm gonna add half the butter, mix, scrape, and then the other half of the butter. Okay. While that does its thing, we're gonna make our dressing for the salad. And this also, like the beans, it's best to make this in advance because you want the shallots to like pickle a little bit. Super easy. We're just gonna shake it up until that cranberry sauce dissolves. Tomorrow, I'm gonna add some freshly squeezed lemon juice to this and some dried cranberries. Lemon juice can kind of get bitter if you squeeze it too far in advance, so we're gonna freshly squeeze our lemon juice tomorrow. Oh, wow, perfect timing. That butter got incorporated, so I'm gonna scrape again, add the rest of the butter. The beauty of the butterflake roll is the way it's shaped. So you can use any favorite like enriched bread dough that you make a lot. So it doesn't have to be this one. You could do this with a challah or something that just has some butter in it. Okay, let's test this. I think we're there. Look at that. It's not tearing, it's falling off the hook. The final step in this recipe is you scrape the dough onto a floured surface and fold it a few times. I kind of got sick of doing that, so I just fold it in the bowl. If you were only making this bread, then yes, go all out and do it exactly as advised. But we have so much going on. Okay, we're gonna cover this. We're gonna let this proof at room temperature for 30 minutes, and then it's gonna go in the fridge, and we will form it tomorrow. Wow, let's see how far we've come, yeah? The best part about making a list is crossing stuff off. Shall we make cake? So we're gonna make our pumpkin cake. It's supposed to combine the best of both holiday pies. So the cake part is gonna be a pumpkin cake with all those warm spices. And then on top, we're gonna put a sticky pecan topping. It's gonna be a sticky butterscotch with pecans on top. Everything you want, everything you need. So I'm doing this in a 9x13. I love a metal pan because it's gonna make sure that the cake rises very evenly. I'm gonna grease my pan just lightly, just so that the paper sticks. You could use a paper towel, but you know, your hands are always the best tool, and then afterwards, you've just moisturized. All right, now for the batter. First, we're gonna whisk up our dry. So this is a really simple muffin method cake. You got your wet and you got your dry. I wanted to keep it as simple as possible. Cool. Now, the wet. We have room temperature eggs. I found the room temperature eggs just got a little bit more volume and the final cake was a little bit more plush. If you forget to pull out your eggs, the easiest thing is to cover them with warm tap water while you mise out the rest of your ingredients, and by the time you're ready for the eggs, they will be room temperature. This is dark corn syrup, but you can use any kind of corn syrup, and there is no substitute for the corn syrup. Oftentimes when there's a recipe with corn syrup, people always ask, can I use honey, can I use maple? But just because they're all liquid sugars doesn't mean they're the same. They're actually completely different, and they work in completely different ways in your baked goods. And don't worry, it's not the same thing as high fructose corn syrup. Thing that we need that is absolutely essential to this recipe. Corn syrup is pure glucose, so it never crystallizes. It makes things, this is gonna stay moist for tomorrow because of the glucose, because of that corn syrup. If you substituted this for honey, it would be so sweet. Am I going too far on a rant?
No, actually, this is what I want to hear. Because I'm fascinated by, like, yeah, why does it have to be corn syrup?
It has to be corn syrup. If you want like the benefit of sugar, that like tender texture, but don't want to increase the sweetness, you use corn syrup. People are like, can I use maple syrup? It's like, no, dude, no, you cannot. All of it spikes your insulin. All of it's bad for you. Use the one that's good for the cake. I need to plug it in. So we're gonna whip this until it gets lighter. It's gonna get thicker. It's gonna hold the trails of the whisk. It's gonna take like 5 minutes. Okay, see how thick and fluffy that got? That's because our eggs were at room temperature. While this is whisking, I'm gonna slowly drizzle in my oil. Okay, cool. So to finish up this cake, I'm gonna add the remaining dry and wet ingredients in batches. And you do that because if you add all the flour in at once and then the pumpkin, you kind of end up just mixing it a little bit too much to get it to evenly incorporate. So for pumpkin pie, I like to roast my own squash, but for cake, I always use the canned because with a cake, it can really throw things off. So the canned stuff is very consistent and it has that very recognizable pumpkin taste, you know? I feel like the corn syrup thing's like the MSG thing. So we'll pour this in. All right, we're gonna spread this out. The main thing is making sure you get in the corners. I feel like the corners often get neglected. That looks good. We're gonna give it a quick tap. And that's just going to push up any big bubbles. Like that. Minimize some of our tunnelage. We're going in the oven, 30 to 35 minutes. Now we're gonna make the mashed potatoes. These potatoes are inspired by the mashed potatoes at Claim Jumpers. Nobody here has heard of it, because I think it's a West Coast thing, or maybe it's a California thing. It's like a Gold Rush themed restaurant, and they have this mashed potato that I really loved as a kid. This is gonna be a little bit chunky, a little reminiscent of potato salad, which is why I thought it would go well with our fried chicken meal. So we got 2 kinds of potatoes. The red skin is gonna be a little bit waxier, and we're gonna leave the skin on, and it's gonna give us a little texture in our mash. And the Yukon Golds, they're much creamier, and we're gonna peel these. Double the fun. I know none of you have heard of Claim Jumpers, but I promise it's like real. And they're mashed potatoes, they're famous. Now we're gonna start on like high heat, bring it up to a boil, and then knock it back down to a gentle simmer, otherwise the potatoes can fall apart. Season generously. Potatoes, you always wanna start cold. If you drop your potatoes into hot water, the outside's gonna cook faster than the inside, and you end up with like a little graininess to your potatoes. Since we got a little bit of time while our potatoes cook, we're gonna prepare some of our beverage for tomorrow. There's no official recipe for this. We're just going with vibes. Okay, so I wanna make a punch. The moms who really wanted to level it up would put like a ring of ice to keep the punch cold. We're gonna do like a cranberry punch, so I'm gonna freeze some cranberry juice. All right, I'm gonna brew a bunch of tea. Strong tea is the key to a good punch. We want it to be a little bit bitter to help cut all the booze. We're putting a lot of rum and whiskey in this, so I guess it's not exactly like your mom's punch. Okay, the potatoes still haven't boiled. And I guess we're gonna make caramel next for the cake. While it's warm, we're gonna make the caramel because we wanna pour it on while it's still a little bit warm, otherwise it just kind of tears up the cake. So we're gonna use corn syrup again. It's not really a caramel, it's more of a butterscotch. So we're not toasting the sugar at all. We're just gonna cook it until it vigorously bubbles. We want a really sticky sauce on top because I wanted to remind you of pecan pie, that goopy topping. Okay, that's good. So we're gonna turn this off and I'm just gonna stir it a little just to kind of cool it off just a touch before we add the vanilla. If you pour it on right away when it's like super hot, it just like runs to the corners. You want the cake a little warm and the caramel a little warm. You don't have to worry about it being totally even because it's gonna, even out on its own, and we're gonna cover it all with pecans. If you can buy them toasted, that's great. Otherwise, pop it in like a 350 or 300 degree oven for like maybe 10 minutes. Flaky salt, and then I'm gonna let this cool just like 30 minutes and then wrap this up with plastic. Leave it at room temp, and it'll be okay on the counter for a couple of days if you wanna make this in advance. All right, let's check our potatoes. Make sure it's like totally tender. A lot of times you mash potatoes and then afterwards you realize the center was a little under. Okay. You wanna get as much of the water out as you can. and you want to pop this over low heat, the lowest your stove will go, and you want to just let this steam out for like a couple minutes. We added a good bit of salt at the beginning, but we still need a little more salt. When you want really creamy, smooth mashed potatoes, you want to make sure that your cream and your butter is warm when you add it. But here we're doing the opposite. We don't want that like super smooth. We want some of the chunks to remain. So we're adding cold milk and cold sour cream. I've got a cup measured out, but we're going to start with just half a cup, and we just want to give it like a very quick, a very gentle smash. I think I'm good. I don't think I want any more milk. Very tangy from the sour cream. Now, if you've been to Claim Jumpers, tell me that doesn't look like Claim Jumpers mashed potatoes. Now we're gonna let this sit out at room temp for like 30 minutes, cool down a bit, and then pop it in the fridge. Okay, we're in a good place. We finished our list for today and set up our drink. So tomorrow's gonna be really chill. We just gotta finish some things off. We gotta get the bread baking, the sweet potatoes, and then we can focus on the fried chicken because fried chicken is hard. Normally I make fried chicken for just like 4, but doubling it to 8, it's a lot of frying, it's a lot of splatter, it's a lot of mess, so it's great that we got all the hard stuff out of the way and we can just really focus on fried chicken.
Any last words?
Order food tonight so you don't have to cook now, again. See you tomorrow. Welcome back. Today we're going to bring it all together. So the first thing I'm gonna do is form and proof the bread, and then we're gonna bake our sweet potatoes. Those things kind of take the longest, and it's nice to get them out of the way. And then after that, heat everything up and set up our fry station. I recommend that you start frying like an hour before your guests get here, so it's still a little hot. But you know, you could also just wait till your guests get here and make them fry. The choice is yours. So the bread has proofed overnight. Whoa. So I'm gonna start by buttering up our tin. For a long time, I said that you have to use unsalted so you can control your salt, but I don't know, I feel like it's one of those things that people say and you just repeat and you don't really think about it. And now I'm like, So I'm buttering the cups and the tops. Grab our dough. I need to divide this into 2 portions, and you could use a scale. It's about 550 grams, and I'm just gonna eyeball it, because you don't really have to be too precise with this. I'm gonna set aside half. I wanna roll this out to a square, just under 1/4 inch thick, and use your scraper to help keep it into a square. So you see, I'm like taking my time, I'm rotating it, I'm just going slow so I can get it really nice and even. Just gives you more opportunity to really get the shape right. Okay, let's see where we're at. It's a little thinner than 1/4 inch, a little wider than 11. That's fine, that's good. So I'm gonna brush this generously with butter. Because our butter is a little cool, it's gonna solidify on this cool dough. It's practically softened butter, not really melted. All right, so now we're gonna cut this into 6. I divided the dough in half, and each half is gonna turn into 6 rolls. Okay, we got our strips, and now we just stack them. And now we're gonna divide this into 6. As you cut each one, pop it right into your muffin tin, and you want that cut side, those flaps sticking up. Because when they bake, it's gonna flake open. It's almost like a laminated bread, but like a very easy hack. And it doesn't matter if it's precise or not, it bakes up so cute no matter what you do. We've got our rolls, and now we need to let this proof until they get a little bit puffy and ballooned. It could be as little as 30 minutes or as much as an hour and a half, so just keep an eye on it. I'm just gonna take a little water just to create a little moist environment. I'm just gonna put it next to the oven. So now I'm gonna roast my sweet potatoes. These are gonna get blanketed in that Mornay that we started to prep yesterday. Roasting them takes like 40 to 50 minutes, so it's a good thing to get done early. These have already been scrubbed because we're gonna roast it with the skin on. And I was really inspired by mac and cheese for this. So we're gonna season it up with the same things that I like to put in my mac and cheese. So a little onion powder, garlic powder, smoked paprika, and some cayenne, and generously season with salt. Okay, and then we're just gonna toss this to coat as evenly as you can. It kind of gets like chunky from the butter, but it'll be okay. Hands are the best tool, especially when you got something weirdly shaped. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to like body shame the sweet potatoes. Okay, and now we're gonna put it in whatever dish you can snugly fit it. And I'm gonna just scrape all this excess butter and seasoning right on top. So I'm gonna wrap this in foil and then bake it at 425 until the potatoes are really tender, between 40 to 55 minutes. Okay, now we fried chicken. Yeah? Before you get frying, it's really important to get your setup. Once you get frying, you don't want to run around looking for a sheet tray to land on or paper towels. You want to stay close to the oil. So I've got a sheet tray with paper towels where I'm going to first drop my chicken when it's right out of the fryer. And then we're going to go onto a rimmed baking sheet set with a wire rack so the bottom doesn't just steam and get soggy. So I love to fry in either a Dutch oven or cast iron. It's going to hold the temperature much more consistently. If your oil temp drops too much, the crust is gonna absorb a lot of fat and it's gonna get very greasy. I have a candy thermometer here, but I'm also gonna keep an eye on it with a digital because I have trust issues. I'm gonna put this on medium high. We're using peanut oil. I know oftentimes you wanna reach for canola or vegetable, and even though it technically does have a high smoke point, they're really unstable fats and will very quickly break down and develop off flavors. My favorite fat to fry in is actually an algae oil. It's like the new cool oil in town. There's a couple brands that make it. It is very expensive, but it makes the crispiest chicken and the fat is very, very stable, so you can strain it and reuse it. Oh, you know what's really good to fry in? Animal fat. So if you really want to have a party, get a bucket of lard. I really want this seasoning to taste like stuffing. And I found that the key to make something taste like stuffing is sage and chicken bouillon. So that's what's going in my seasoning. We're starting off with a whole bunch of dried parsley. I'm gonna use my fingers to really crumble it up. I'm also gonna crumble in some dried sage. I feel like when I smell sage, I'm like, whoa, Thanksgiving. I'm just gonna pull out these stems. Okay, I'm keeping an eye on my oil because when we hit 275, we're gonna fry some sage leaves. I got my parsley and dried sage. Now to this, chicken bouillon. Let me tell you, it will instantly taste like stuffing. We got a little garlic powder, cayenne, black pepper, a little bit of sugar. It's gonna really help balance all the flavors, and a touch of MSG. And I'm gonna sprinkle this onto my chicken as it comes out of the fryer. Because we have a lot of salt from the bouillon, we don't need to season with more salt. Okay, so here I have some double O flour. It makes it extra crispy and, more importantly, less greasy. But I get it, it's like a specialty ingredient that you might not be able to find, so you can totally use AP. And I'm gonna season this with a couple teaspoons of salt. And that's it. I'm not gonna put any spices in there because I'm gonna add my spices on top. Okay, I think everything is ready. We can grab our chicken. Okay, so when it's at 275, I wanna fry some sage leaves. This one says 275, that's what I'm gonna go with. So let's drop it in. Now sage tells you when it's done frying. So it's really bubbly and loud right now because it's got a lot of moisture. And you know it's gonna be nice and crisp when it starts to quiet down. Some have gotten quieter before others, so just scoop those out. And it might not be crisp right away, but as long as the bubbling has subsided, once it gets cool, it'll be crisp because we're gonna crumble this on top of our finished fried chicken. Anytime anything comes out of the fryer, don't forget to season, so a little hit of salt. We don't need much. My ideal fried chicken is Popeyes. And what I love about it are the little craggly, crunchy little bits. And so the key to making that happen is you want to prime your flour with a little bit of the brine to create these little clusters. You get these like really big clustery bits that fry up and get really craggly and really crisp. This one says 315. This one says 325. That's what I'm gonna go with. You're gonna have a wet hand and a dry hand. Wet hand, drop it in, and then you're gonna bury the chicken and press. Really, really get in there and press. And that's gonna make sure we get those nice craggly bits. Then pull it out and tap off any loose flour. See that? See those shreds? Oh, that's my favorite part. That's what you want. That's how you get that Popeyes texture. And don't be afraid to get close to the fryer. I know it can be scary, but it's dangerous when you plop from far. So you gotta get brave. It's not gonna jump up at you. And you can't really do this with tongs because you're gonna end up pulling off that coating. And we are gonna try and get it skin side down. The drums don't really have it's skin on both sides, but for the thighs, make sure you go skin side down. The side that's hidden the bottom on the first fry, before you flip, is gonna be the pretty side. And we're gonna crowd the pan, and that's gonna be okay. When they get this pan full, it might drop about 50 degrees, and that's okay. Don't crank it up immediately. The temp will slowly come back up. You don't want the temp to exceed 325 or get below 250. Don't get in there and start poking and flipping, just like let it do its thing. It'll be okay. When you start to see a lot of color happening, that's when they flip. See how we're getting a little dark here? I think the first piece might be ready to flip. Also, I dropped everything clockwise and then in the middle, so I know which order which guy went in there first. Are you ready? Yes, you are, huh? Look at that. Nice golden brown. I love when the chicken makes contact with the bottom of the pan and you get these like extra mahogany bits. It's my favorite part. So I'm hitting 325, so I'm dropping the temp just a little bit because I want to make sure I don't get over. Okay. Successful flip. We didn't lose any crust. Frying's not scary. I feel like people are scared of frying. The oil has to get to like 450 degrees before it explodes. But there's a lot of signs. It's gonna start smoking. If anything happens and you do feel like your oil is getting really hot and smoking, turn off the heat and put a lid on it. With dark meat, fried chicken, especially if it's been brined, I really like to go for 185. I know that seems really high, but there's a lot of connective tissue and fat that you want to render out, and it doesn't really begin until after 175. But we've brined it. It's not going to be dry, and something about fried chicken inherently, it's like very hard for it to be dry because like all the moisture is sealed in that crust. Let's check one piece. This first guy, it's 190. We're good. Okay, so I'm gonna evacuate this round of chicken. Before I do that, I'm gonna turn off the heat because an empty pot of oil can get hot really fast. You'll be so surprised. So I'm not gonna turn the heat back on until I start dredging and putting in the next round. And now we will transfer to the rack. So now while it's hot, let's season it up. Be generous. And I'm gonna flip it, get both sides, because we don't want one-sided tasting chicken. Don't be shy with this. This is what makes it Thanksgiving. Pluck out these big chunks, because if they stay in here, it might burn. Okay, our rolls are ready to bake. I'm gonna give them a quick egg wash and pop them in the oven, 350 degrees, till they're nice and golden. They have softened. All right, we can take our potatoes out. I've got my second final batch of chicken frying, and my rolls are in the oven. They're just a couple minutes away. The chicken looks good. Chicken looks good. I think everything's gonna be fine. But you know, there's always a little anxiety when you've gotta put a whole bunch of things on the table at once. But that's what I love about fried chicken. I think it's better at room temp, so you don't have to stress too much. Actually, the first thing I'm gonna do after getting those rolls out is we're gonna make punch, and I'm gonna start drinking punch. It's gonna make the rest of the process so much smoother. You can see the layers of the bread, like as it baked, it just like opened up, and we're gonna have these really delicious pull apart rolls. And now while it's still warm, just drench it in butter. It's gonna soak up in between those layers. And then I think our chicken is ready to flip. Wow, what timing. All right, finish it up. Lemon zest. This was a last minute addition, and it ended up being Ham's favorite bit because the lemon really brightens the whole thing up. And we're gonna crumble over our sage leaves. Ooh, extra sagey. So much sage, right? So our chicken is totally ready. We're gonna make punch, I'm gonna drink punch, and then we're gonna heat everything up. So I'm gonna start partying before everyone gets here. Okay, this is the most exciting part of the day. I don't have a recipe. I just do it by taste, just mix it until it's good. So I love doing a batched cocktail whenever I have friends coming over. It's just so stressful to try and mix drinks while people are here. You could even batch a martini. You really can batch anything. And then also I'll have wine for the people who are classy. I love making punch. Okay, and then you just taste and adjust and keep going until it's delicious. It needs a little help. Let's add some tea. Oh, it's really hot. Can I do a series where I just make batch drinks poorly?
No recipe.
No recipe. So, I'm gonna make my own punch. Ooh, oh wow, whoa. It's like magically everything appears. That's for me. And we're gonna do a simple NA1. It's just gonna be iced tea with cranberry. Oh, that's good, okay, cool. Let this chill, and we're gonna get everything warmed up. And myself. Ooh, wonderful. Plate up our pickles. They look like pickles, isn't that cool? If you've never made pickles, I do think it's very exciting. You're like, whoa. So this is the bechamel we made yesterday. It's thick, and that's exactly what we want. So that's gonna get going, and we got our gravy that you can see has been put into 2 containers. I did not do that. It was against my will. There you go, see, it fits. You can't seal it, but it'll be okay. Just plop. Very satisfying. Mashed potatoes. So we're gonna get those in a smaller container so we can microwave it, and then get in there and stir every like 2 minutes. Mornay, slowly melting. Okay, so the salad, if you take a look, the color's changed. It's more like bright green, almost as if you cooked it, just from like hanging out with salt. So we're gonna finish up our dressing with lemon juice, olive oil, and some dried cranberries. Wow. So we're gonna add our dressing right into the bag and shake it up. Toss it around. There's so much dressing on the beans that we don't need to dress our leaves. We got really nice little gem lettuce. Hi, potatoes. I'm returning for you. Oh God, panic. There's always panic at the end. We're definitely gonna need that milk. So I'm gonna go ahead and add it now. And then we'll see if we need more after we continue to zap it. Okay, let's see, we might need a little splash of milk here. Not a lot, because we really don't want this to get too thin. Salad, let's return. So add a little bit of beans to the cup of every lettuce, just like that. You can plate this up like a couple hours before and just throw it in the fridge. Just keep layering. Tower of salad. And then right when people sit down, we're gonna shower it with our French's French fried onions. You wanna hold off on that because it will lose its crunch. Let's get this Mornay taken care of. This is where you want it, really nice and thick. This is like just enough Mornay to hold the cheese. You know what I mean? It's really about the cheese. If you just scattered it with cheese, you want to take a step out of it, go for that. But this kind of makes it feel a little bit more luxurious. There's no cheese left behind, guys. Now the main thing today, since we got a lot going on, you don't want to get distracted and not taste things. I need salt. There we go. It's getting smooth, the cheese is melted, and then we're gonna drape this over our potatoes. Make sure you hit every potato, okay? And then go back with more. I'm gonna get everything else ready before broiling because this is gonna be fast. All right, so let's taste this. Definitely needs more salt. And more pepper. Maybe a bit more milk too. I think 3 more minutes and we'll be there. Okay, what's next? Let's put our rolls on a platter. Whoa. Okay, fried chicken time. Hey buddy, did you know you're a star? Look at that. Come on, I think that's more fun than a platter of turkey. Okay, they're both fun in their different ways. Everybody can be fun. Okay, our gravy is a little thick. I'm gonna thin her out, but not get too distracted and let my sweet potatoes burn. Okay. Yeah, that's what we want to see. Really nice and puffy and blackened. Oh yeah. Don't be afraid of letting it go dark. It's not going to be bitter. It's just going to really bring out the flavor. And because we didn't just put cheese on top, we mixed it into that bechamel. It's not broken or greasy. Now, as you can see, our potatoes are hot. And now we're going to just stir in our scallions. Save a little for the top for pretty, you know? Ooh, potatoes, huh? Make it look swoopy. Wow, whoa, huh? All right. So, our cake. Now, if depanning stresses you out, just like don't. Just cut it into pieces. Oh no. Oh no, you're cracking. Come on. The caramel kind of crumbled. If this happens to you, don't worry. There's so many pecans, no one will know. Either way, if you get like a nice gooey, sticky topping, or if it's a little bit more stiff like this, it still tastes good. So just like, don't tell people what it was supposed to be. You don't apologize, you pretend like it's correct. Just be confident. If your potatoes are cold, just call it potato salad and move on with your life and pour people more punch. And I guess we are ready. We just have to set the table and we're ready to go. Come, gather around, guests. Let's eat. Thanksgiving!
Wait, this is gorgeous.
Happy Thanksgiving!
Literally, and this is the highest compliment I could ever give you. It looks like Popeyes.
That was the goal. That's the inspiration. Yeah, I love Popeyes.
There's fried sage. What else is on this chicken?
It's like stuffing flavored chicken, so it's seasoned with sage and chicken bouillon. And I like recommend squeezing lemon as you eat it.
The sweet potato has nice spices in
Oh
it.
my, these taters.
The sweet potatoes are covered in Mornay and they're seasoned with like stuff you would put in mac and cheese, so like garlic, chili, paprika. The salad is inspired by green bean casserole, so it's smashed green beans with a cranberry vinaigrette.
There were green beans under there the
Wait,
whole
do you
time?
not have green beans?
No.
It's a green bean salad.
No, I don't have that many green beans.
This is so much more flavorful than the Thanksgiving that I make.
So I like these because I like to make a sandwich. So, you know, take a little mustard gravy, a little lettuce, a little chicken, and then make a sandwich.
You're like a mad scientist.
This is so good.
This is so good.
Like, doing it like that is genius.
So this is a pumpkin spice sheet cake with pecan and caramel on top.
It's the best of pecan pie, saccharine as hell, okay? And that's how I like it, and the best of a cake.
It is really balanced. And I like how salty the pecans are.
Thanks for coming to the fried chicken Thanksgiving. And if you want these recipes and more, head over to New York Times Cooking. Cheers!
Cheers.
Yeah.
Oh, this was so fabulous. Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming.
This was